This is exactly why you need to change your car's factory speakers immediately. Today, I'm going to be working on my 2005 GMC Envoy. This is my wife's SUV, and quite frankly, the audio is terrible. I've already uploaded a video on how to change out the rear door speakers, which was a smashing success. And now I'm going to repeat that success by putting those same exact Infinity Reference REF-6522EX shallow mount speakers in the front doors of this SUV. If you take a look at this passenger side front door, right down inside of the pull handle, you'll notice there's a 10mm screw, and that's where we're going to start. I'll be using my small 1/4" ratchet that looks something like this. You're going to need a few extensions to get that thing out of there, and just slide it down in the hole and start pulling that screw out. You also may need to use something like this telescoping magnet in order to get the screw out of there. The next thing we're going to do is pull off this control panel here, because right underneath this control panel lies another 10mm screw. For that, we're going to use a trim tool like this, and this is also what we're going to use to pull the door panel off of the door frame. You can slide this tool right underneath the panel and just start slowly but surely prying up, and you can see there are a couple clips there. You're going to want to do this very slowly and make sure your tool is right up against these clips, because you don't want to break anything or bend or warp any part of this panel. It'll go back on looking like crap. So make sure you're doing this slow. Once this back half is up, we can work on the front. Just again, slowly but surely, just pry up on this thing, and you should have this electrical panel up and out, just like that. If you look deep inside this panel, you'll see the other 10mm bolt that needs to come out. Again, we're gonna have to use this magnet to pull the bolt out, but we got it. Now we'll simply take these electrical connections off. Surprisingly, they are very easy. There's just a finger clip here. Press down on that, pull it straight out, pull that one straight out. And on this one, you may need a small screwdriver, or you can use your thumbnail like I just did. Now that we have the electrical connections removed, those two 10mm screws removed, we can now work on removing the actual door panel itself. To do that, again, I'm gonna use this trim tool. Then I'm gonna go around the door panel and just look for an opening for me to be able to put this trim tool in, and here's one right here. An opening like this allows me to fit my trim tool right up inside there without having to pry anything open or mess anything up. So now I can go ahead and look for my first clip. And being very careful, I can slide my trim tool under here and pop these clips out one by one. With each successive clip, I can then look back in this crack and find the next clip and slide my tool as close to that as possible to try to get it to pop out. All right, so we have all the clips removed from the door except one, and that one is right here. This one is a little more difficult because it is actually a metal clip. And really, it's not hard at all as long as you take your time trying to pry it open just a little bit to look inside for the location of that clip. All right, I can see the clip, putting my trim tool right up next to it, popping it straight out. Now that all of our clips are removed, I can work on lifting this door panel up and out, right out of the track there in the windowsill. Slowly but surely removing it, and there we go. All right, so what do we have here? Well, surprisingly, we have a component speaker system. Component speaker system is when you have a tweeter separate from the woofer. Now, while these didn't sound as bad as the rears, they still don't sound good by any means. So we are gonna do away with all of this and put our awesome Infinity speaker right here. The first thing we're gonna have to do is disconnect this electrical connection, which is just a plug, and then we're gonna remove these 3 screws, one here, one up here, and one more right down here. This electrical connection is just a simple clip. You push in and pull it out. Then I'm going to go ahead and use a 7mm to remove these 3 screws. Now this whole thing should come right out. Just like that. What you're looking at here is simply the bracket to mount the speaker to. You can see the woofer is mounted right there, and you can see the tweeter is mounted right there. All right, to get this woofer out, we'll simply need a T15 Torx bit, and there's 2 screws, one there and one there. Now we can take a pry tool of some kind and pry this thing out of there. We're also going to cut these wires. 1, 2. You could leave this tweeter in its spot. We're not going to be using it, but I tend to like to remove things that I'm not going to be using. So all you're going to do is firmly press it from this side through. I'm also going to go ahead and take and remove this clip here. and then pull the wires out the rest of the way. And now you can see this entire setup that we will not be reusing. You can now see the state of this bracket with everything removed. And surprisingly, there is only one small modification we're gonna have to make in order to make our new speaker work. If we take our new speaker and set it in place, we can see that the screw holes line up perfectly. The only thing that we're being hung up on here is just a little bit of this tab here. So I'm gonna go ahead and take my marker and mark where I'm gonna cut. I'm gonna carefully remove the speaker and set it aside. And while not the perfect tool for the job, a hacksaw works pretty good. Okay, so now you can see the portion that I cut out. This should allow the speaker enough room to sit completely flush. Let's try it out. Grabbing our new speaker carefully from the bottom, I'm gonna go ahead and set it in and line up those screw holes, and it is absolutely perfect. Nice, tight fit. Completely flush and flat, and it looks great. When I said there was only one modification we're gonna have to make, I lied a little bit. And that is because I'm gonna use this wiring adapter for GM vehicles by Metra. I'll put a link down in the description below for this thing. Very cheap and very useful. And if you take a look right here, there's a hole for the wiring to go through. This is the perfect location, and you can see the wiring goes right through there, which will then connect to the speaker. The only problem we face is this white side of the wire is a little too big to go through that hole. I'm gonna take my drill here and bore it out just enough. Now looking closely, you can see that hole is a little bit bigger, and both wires should fit through there with no problem at all. This is perfect. Very carefully, go ahead, place the screw, and drive it in. Again, carefully place that screw, and drive it in. On to connecting the speaker electrically. You can see those two wires that I pushed through that hole. I've actually decided to cut the ends off and solder the wires on. This should make for a stronger, more accurate, long-lasting connection that will not come loose over time. We are all soldered up and ready to install back into the door. And you can see by doing it this way, it is exactly like it came from the factory. And our original factory plug just plugs right into it. The only thing we have left is to reinstall everything. So we have 3 screws on this bracketry here, and then we'll just put the door panel back on and the window switch. All right, guys, well, the job is done, and I could not be more happy. I just listened to a little bit of music, and it was incredible. I wish I could show you guys, but unfortunately, due to the copyright restrictions here on the internet, I can't. I'm sorry about that. Now, as for why you should immediately change out your car's factory speakers, well, if you take a look at what came out, you'll see exactly why. 9 times out of 10, those factory speakers are absolutely horrendous. They're made of a thin paper material that just cannot reproduce sound in any sort of quality. A lot of you guys know what I'm talking about. Some of you could care less, but if you're like me, you'll do this as soon as possible. Most of the time, it's incredibly easy to do. As long as you take your time, use the correct tools, and try not to break anything. As for the type of speakers I used, these Infinities, well, these things are phenomenal. They're the same speakers I used on the back doors, and I love the sound. Incredibly detailed, incredibly crystal clear, and punchy. All of that, and they only cost around $50 for a set of 2. I'll go ahead and put a link down in the description of this video for the exact speakers I used. Other than that, guys, if you have anything to add, please comment down in the comment section below. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe if you're not already, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks, guys.